I'm living my best life, remember? You're in control of your happiness. These were the last words Raven K. Jackson shared with her thousands of followers just hours before her body was discovered. The 24-year-old fitness influencer, motivational speaker, and model had built an empire around positivity and mental wellness. Her Instagram feed showcased exotic vacations, designer outfits, and flawless workout routines, the very definition of what many would call living the dream. But on September 6, 2022, that dream shattered. Raven was found dead in her apartment, lifeless. The news sent shockwaves through social media. Her boyfriend, Chicago rapper 600 Breezy aka Antonio Valentino King, posted a heartbreaking tribute claiming she had jumped from a bridge, writing, "My baby was hurting and I did everything I could to show her nothing but love and keep her going." Yet police reports told a completely different story. No bridge. Two contradicting narratives emerged immediately, raising questions that would haunt her followers. Did she end her own life? Or was it murder? Or something else entirely? How could someone who radiated such confidence and joy online end up dead under such mysterious circumstances? The contrast between her public persona, the woman who created Mental Health Mondays and ran empowerment seminars for young Black women, and the reality of her final moments, couldn't be more stark. As her followers scrolled back through her feed in disbelief, they noticed something disturbing. The perfectly filtered photos and inspirational quotes suddenly seemed like masks hiding a much darker truth. The woman who taught others how to find inner peace had apparently been unable to find it herself. What forces pushed this vibrant young woman to such a tragic end? Was it the pressure of maintaining her perfect online image? The complicated relationship with her rapper boyfriend? Or something more insidious that no one saw coming? Welcome to Crazy Dark Files. We'll examine the life, death, and legacy of Raven Jackson, a woman whose online presence painted one picture while her reality revealed something entirely different. Have you ever noticed how different someone's online presence can be from their reality? Drop a comment below and subscribe to our channel for more crime stories just like this. I'm curious how many of you have experienced that disconnect, either personally or with someone you follow. Long before Raven Jackson became an influencer with a devoted following, she was a young girl fighting to be heard. Born into a household where emotional support was scarce, Raven grew up feeling invisible. "I never felt loved or heard by the adults around me," she once confessed in a vulnerable Instagram post. This absence of validation would become both her deepest wound and her greatest motivation. Despite her challenging home environment, Raven displayed remarkable resilience from an early age. Friends from her hometown described her as fiercely determined and someone who refused to be defined by her circumstances. This determination carried her to Jacksonville State University, where she would begin transforming her pain into purpose. College became the turning point in Raven's life. Away from her family dynamics, she discovered her natural leadership abilities and passion for community building. She quickly became involved in student unions, particularly those focused on empowering Black students. Her professors noted her exceptional ability to connect with peers and articulate complex emotional concepts in accessible ways. It was during her sophomore year that Raven began documenting her fitness journey on Instagram. What started as casual workout posts evolved into something much more significant as her following grew. She combined physical fitness with emotional wellness messaging, creating content that addressed both external and internal strength. "Building muscle taught me how to build confidence," she wrote in one of her most shared posts. By her junior year, Raven had amassed over 50,000 followers across platforms. Her content strategy was deliberate and effective, mixing aspirational fitness content with vulnerable discussions about overcoming personal struggles. This combination resonated deeply with young women, particularly in the Black community, who saw in Raven someone who understood their unique challenges. The launch of Real Talk with Raven marked her transition from influencer to community leader. This program, which began as a small campus seminar, quickly grew into a movement. Her first event, titled The Power of Perception, drew hundreds of students eager to hear her perspective on self-image and personal growth. "Everyone's experience is unique," she told the crowd that night. "Your story shapes how you see the world, but it doesn't have to limit how far you can go." Attendees described leaving her talks feeling seen and empowered, exactly the validation Raven herself had craved throughout her childhood. RTR expanded to include Mental Health Mondays, weekly online sessions where Raven offered guidance to those struggling with anxiety, depression, and self-doubt. She created safe spaces for discussions that were often taboo in her community. "We can't heal what we don't reveal" became her signature phrase, encouraging followers to embrace vulnerability as a pathway to strength. As her platform grew, so did her opportunities. Modeling contracts, speaking engagements, and brand partnerships followed. By age 24, Raven had built what appeared to be an empire of positivity and self-improvement. Her feed showcased a woman who had conquered her demons and was helping others do the same. Yet those closest to Raven began noticing concerning patterns. While publicly advocating for emotional honesty, she privately struggled to practice what she preached. Friends reported that she would deliver an empowering talk, then immediately fall into periods of intense doubt and anxiety once the cameras stopped rolling. "There was always this pressure to maintain the image," said a former college roommate who wished to remain anonymous. She felt responsible for everyone else's healing while neglecting her own. The tragic irony of Raven's story lies in this fundamental contradiction. The woman who built a platform on authentic self-expression found herself trapped in a persona that became increasingly difficult to sustain. As her following grew, so did the gap between her public messaging and private reality. Her relationship with Chicago rapper 600 Breezy further complicated this dynamic, introducing new pressures and public scrutiny that would test Raven's already fragile emotional foundation. The woman who taught thousands how to protect their peace would soon find her own slipping away. To her thousands of followers, Raven Jackson's life appeared flawless. Her Instagram grid told a compelling story. A beautiful, successful black woman who had overcome adversity to create an enviable existence. Each post was strategically designed to inspire, motivate, and showcase what appeared to be effortless success. A typical week on Raven's feed followed a consistent pattern. Mondays featured her mental wellness content, often showing her in serene settings with captions about inner peace and emotional growth. Wednesdays showcased her fitness routines, perfectly executed exercises in color-coordinated athletic wear, always accompanied by discount codes for supplements or workout gear. Weekends displayed her social life, exclusive events, romantic moments with 600 Breezy, or gatherings with what appeared to be close friends. "She understood the algorithm perfectly," explained a social media expert who analyzed her content strategy. Her posting schedule, engagement tactics, and aesthetic consistency were textbook examples of effective influencer marketing. Behind each seemingly spontaneous photo lay hours of preparation. Former friends revealed that Raven would often take hundreds of photos to get the perfect shot, sometimes spending entire afternoons creating content that appeared to be casual moments. She maintained a detailed content calendar and tracked engagement metrics obsessively, adjusting her strategy based on which posts performed best. Her captions were equally calculated. They struck a delicate balance between aspiration and relatability, showing an extraordinary life while assuring followers they could achieve the same. "Your dream life is just one decision away," read one of her most popular posts, which showed her lounging by an infinity pool at a luxury resort. But private messages to close friends told a different story. "I'm exhausted trying to keep this up," she texted a college friend just months before her death. "Everyone thinks I have all the answers, but I'm barely holding it together most days." This duality became increasingly difficult to maintain. While publicly preaching self-acceptance, Raven privately struggled with body image issues, often restricting her diet severely before photo shoots. Her effortless beauty routine actually involved expensive treatments and hours of preparation that she never disclosed to followers. Financial pressures added another layer of complexity. Though her content suggested affluence, Raven was often stretched thin financially. Brand deals were inconsistent, and maintaining the lifestyle her followers expected, designer clothes, luxury vacations, high-end fitness equipment, required spending that outpaced her actual income. The pressure to appear successful often exceeds actual success in influencer culture, noted a researcher who studies social media psychology. The gap between perception and reality creates enormous psychological strain. This strain became evident in subtle ways. Followers who met Raven in person often commented on how different she seemed, more reserved, less confident than her online persona suggested. During live events, she sometimes appeared anxious and overwhelmed, a stark contrast to her composed social media presence. The relationship with 600 Breezy further complicated her image management. While she portrayed their relationship as supportive and loving online, friends reported frequent arguments and periods of intense stress. Maintaining the appearance of a perfect partnership while navigating real relationship challenges added another performance requirement to her already exhausting routine. Perhaps most telling were the drafts found on her phone after her death, unsent, vulnerable posts that revealed her true struggles. "Sometimes I wonder if anyone would still follow me if they knew how broken I really am," read one draft dated just weeks before her death. These unshared thoughts revealed the weight of the facade she maintained. As her following grew, so did the gap between image and reality. Each new follower represented another person to potentially disappoint if the truth emerged. The woman who appeared to have it all was increasingly trapped by the very image that brought her success. This perfect online persona, the dream life that inspired thousands, was becoming a prison. And as Raven's relationship with 600 Breezy intensified, the pressure to maintain this illusion would only grow more unbearable. Raven's relationship with Antonio Valentino King, better known by his rap name 600 Breezy, began in early 2020 just as the pandemic was reshaping social interactions worldwide. Their connection started through mutual friends in the entertainment industry, with initial interactions playing out through Instagram DMs and FaceTime calls during lockdown. For Raven, the relationship represented both personal and professional advancement. 600 Breezy had established himself in Chicago's drill rap scene and boasted over 1 million Instagram followers, significantly more than Raven's growing but smaller audience. Friends noted that she was genuinely attracted to his confidence and street-smart perspective, qualities that complemented her more polished inspirational persona. Their relationship remained relatively low-key at first, unlike many influencer couples who immediately monetize their romance through content. Raven and 600 Breezy shared only occasional photos together. This selective approach created an air of mystery that followers found intriguing. Comments sections filled with questions about their status, driving engagement on both their profiles. "He makes me feel protected in ways I never experienced growing up," Raven confided to a close friend. This sense of security was particularly meaningful given her childhood experiences of feeling unsupported. In 600 Breezy, she believed she'd found someone who could provide the emotional stability she craved. However, the relationship came with significant complications, most notably the ongoing drama with another woman named Queen Key. Before dating Raven, 600 Breezy had been involved with Queen Key, who publicly claimed he was the father of her triplets, born in 2019. This situation created immediate tension, as 600 Breezy had publicly denied paternity, while Queen Key maintained her claims. Raven found herself thrust into this pre-existing conflict. Though she attempted to stay above the fray publicly, private messages reveal she was deeply affected by the situation. Queen Key occasionally sent Raven direct messages containing allegations about 600 Breezy's character, past relationships, and even his health status. One particularly disturbing exchange occurred in late 2021 when Queen Key sent Raven screenshots of conversations allegedly proving 600 Breezy had been unfaithful. Friends reported that Raven was devastated but chose to believe his denials, creating internal conflict that she masked from her followers. She would be crying 1 minute about something Queen Key sent her, then posting inspirational content the next, recalled a friend who witnessed these episodes. The disconnect was jarring. The relationship also introduced Raven to a level of public scrutiny she hadn't previously experienced. As 600 Breezy's girlfriend, she became a target for both his fans and critics. Comment sections that once contained supportive messages now occasionally filled with comparisons to his exes or questions about the paternity drama. 600 Breezy's legal troubles added another layer of stress. In August 2021, he was sentenced to prison for violating probation related to a 2012 crack cocaine conviction. Though he served only a few months, the separation and uncertainty took a toll on Raven's mental state. She maintained a supportive public stance while privately expressing concerns about their future. Their relationship dynamic also revealed troubling patterns. Text messages recovered after her death showed frequent arguments followed by intense reconciliations, a cycle that mental health professionals identify as emotionally depleting. 600 Breezy would sometimes disappear for days without explanation, leaving Raven anxious and insecure. Despite these challenges, Raven remained committed to making the relationship work. She began adapting her content and even her friend circle to accommodate his preferences. Close friends noticed she became increasingly isolated from her support system, particularly from people who expressed concerns about the relationship. She started canceling plans with us whenever he was available, one college friend noted. It was like her priorities completely shifted to revolving around his schedule and needs. By summer 2022, the strain was showing in subtle ways. Raven's typically consistent posting became erratic. Her content featured fewer appearances at public events and more time spent in private settings. The confident voice that had built her brand began showing hints of uncertainty. In her final months, the contrast between her public portrayal of the relationship and private reality grew starker. While sharing romantic moments online, her private communications revealed a woman increasingly doubtful about her partner's commitment and her own worth. This relationship, which began with such promise, had become yet another performance requiring constant management, adding to the already overwhelming pressure of maintaining her perfect online persona. The final week of Raven Jackson's life showed subtle but significant shifts in her behavior, changes that seemed minor in isolation but appear ominous in retrospect. Piecing together her digital footprint, private communications, and witness accounts reveals a troubling progression toward her tragic end on September 6, 2022. August 30th marked the beginning of this critical period. Raven posted what would become her last professional collaboration, a sponsored workout video for a protein shake brand. Followers noticed nothing unusual, but the brand's marketing director later revealed that Raven had missed 2 deadline extensions before submitting the content, something completely out of character for her typically punctual deliveries. That same evening, Raven and 600 Breezy attended a music industry event in Atlanta. Photos from the night show them smiling together, but a witness who spoke with Raven at the event described her as distracted and checking her phone constantly. Security camera footage from the venue captured an intense argument between the couple in the parking lot, with Raven visibly upset before they drove away together. On August 31st, Raven's posting pattern changed noticeably. Instead of her usual original content, she shared 3 consecutive quotes about betrayal and self-worth. One read, "Sometimes the people who say they love you the most are just using your light to cast their shadow." She also unfollowed several accounts associated with 600 Breezy's friends and music collaborators. September 1st brought a concerning development. Raven canceled her scheduled Mental Health Monday live stream, the first time she had ever missed this weekly commitment without prior notice. When followers expressed concern in the comments, she responded with an uncharacteristically brief message: "Just need some time to practice what I preach. Back next week stronger than ever." That night, location data from her phone shows she drove to a bridge overlooking the Chattahoochee River, where she remained parked for nearly 2 hours. She made no calls during this time, but sent a text to her childhood friend that read only, "Do you ever feel like everything you've built is just a house of cards?" September 2nd through 4th showed increasing isolation. Raven declined calls from her management team and canceled a speaking engagement at a youth empowerment conference. Her social media activity decreased to just 1 post per day, all recycled content from previous shoots rather than new material. Phone records reveal multiple missed calls from 600 Breezy during this period, followed by lengthy late-night conversations. A neighbor in Raven's apartment complex reported hearing a heated argument through the walls on the night of September 3rd, with a male voice shouting and what sounded like objects being thrown. September 5th, the day before her death, began with what appeared to be a return to normalcy. Raven posted a workout video with an upbeat caption about resetting your mindset and responded positively to comments. She even announced a new partnership with a mental wellness app scheduled to launch the following month. However, her digital activity that afternoon reveals a different story. Browser history from her laptop shows she searched phrases including signs of emotional manipulation, how to leave a toxic relationship safely, and depression versus giving up. She also drafted, but never sent, emails to several close friends with the subject line, "I need to talk." At 7:43 p.m., Raven posted what would become her final Instagram update, a sunset photo with the caption, "I'm living my best life. Remember, you're in control of your happiness." The post received thousands of likes and supportive comments, with followers expressing how inspired they were by her positive outlook. Just 30 minutes after this post, Raven made her final phone call, a 22-minute conversation with 600 Breezy. Cell tower data places him approximately 30 miles from her apartment at the time. The content of this conversation remains unknown, but immediately afterward, Raven texted her building's security guard asking if anyone had requested access to her apartment. The guard confirmed no visitors had been logged. At 9:17 p.m., she sent her last text message to 600 Breezy, which read simply, "I can't do this anymore. I'm sorry." He called her repeatedly over the next hour, but these calls went unanswered. The following morning, after Raven failed to join a scheduled conference call, her management team requested a wellness check. September 6th, police entered her apartment only to find her deceased. The warning signs, her withdrawal from commitments, recycled content, concerning searches, and final cryptic messages paint a picture of a woman in crisis. Yet these signals were largely invisible to her thousands of followers, who continued to see only the carefully constructed image of success and positivity she maintained until the very end. What do you think about the pressure social media puts on influencers? Let me know where you're watching from. Is the expectation of a perfect life online creating impossible standards for real people behind the screens? The circumstances surrounding Raven Jackson's death quickly became clouded by contradictory accounts, beginning just hours after her body was discovered. The first public announcement came not from authorities but from 600 Breezy himself, who shared a lengthy Instagram post that would immediately set a controversial narrative in motion. "My baby was hurting and I did everything I could to show her nothing but love and keep her going," he wrote at 2:17 p.m. on September 6th, just hours after police had found her body. "I posted this to say this. Check on your strong friends, check on your quiet friends, your friends who make everything look like it's together. Check on them." The post continued with a shocking claim. "You hurt me with this one baby. How could you go jump off a bridge and end your life?" This statement eventually became the center of a growing controversy as official details emerged. By 4:30 p.m. that same day, preliminary police reports had been leaked to several media outlets, revealing a completely different scenario. This direct contradiction to 600 Breezy's bridge suicide claim immediately raised red flags among Raven's followers and friends. Why would he fabricate such a specific detail about her death? Was this a deliberate attempt to mislead the public, or had he been genuinely misinformed? When reporters contacted 600 Breezy for clarification, his representatives issued a brief statement. Antonio is devastated by the loss of Raven and spoke out of emotion before having all the facts. He asks for privacy during this difficult time. He would not address the discrepancy directly for several weeks. Text messages recovered from Raven's phone revealed her final communication, "I can't do this anymore, I'm sorry," sent to 600 Breezy at 9:17 p.m. the night before. This message, combined with her concerning internet searches and the locked apartment, initially led investigators to lean toward suicide as the cause of death. However, several elements complicated this conclusion. The medical examiner noted bruising on Raven's wrists and forearms that appeared to be 1 to 2 days old. While these could have resulted from various causes, including her regular intense workouts, the pattern was consistent with defensive injuries. This finding wasn't conclusive, but added another layer of uncertainty. Perhaps most puzzling was the complete absence of a suicide note, particularly unusual for someone who expressed herself so prolifically online. Raven's laptop contained no draft messages or scheduled posts indicating suicidal intent. Her planner, meticulously maintained throughout her career, included entries for appointments and content ideas extending weeks into the future. As these details emerged, 600 Breezy's initial bridge claim became increasingly problematic. 3 weeks after Raven's death, he finally addressed the discrepancy in a radio interview. "When I got the call that she was gone, I was told she had jumped from a bridge. That's what I believed when I made that post. I later learned what really happened, but I was too devastated to correct it publicly." This explanation raised further questions. Who had given him this incorrect information? Phone records showed he had spoken with Raven the night before her death and had attempted to call her multiple times afterward. He had not been in contact with police or emergency services before making his post. A former friend of Raven's publicly questioned his account. The bridge detail wasn't just a minor mistake, it was a completely fabricated scenario. That's not something you get wrong by accident. Adding to the confusion, 600 Breezy's behavior in the weeks following her death struck many as unusual. While initially posting emotional tributes, he resumed promoting his music just 10 days after her passing. At a performance in late September, he was recorded telling the crowd, "Life goes on, you know what I'm saying? Can't let nothing hold you back." The police investigation officially concluded in November 2022, ruling Raven's death a suicide based on the totality of evidence. However, the final report acknowledged the unusual circumstances and conflicting initial reports that complicated the case. For Raven's followers and loved ones, the official conclusion did little to resolve the lingering questions. Why would 600 Breezy claim she jumped from a bridge? What explained the bruising on her arm? And perhaps most importantly, how could someone who built her brand on mental health awareness reach such a point of despair without anyone being able to intervene? These unanswered questions transformed what might have been a tragic but straightforward case into something far more complex, a mystery that continues to haunt those who followed Raven's journey. News of Raven Jackson's death spread rapidly across social media platforms, transforming her accounts into digital memorials overnight. Her final post accumulated over 500,000 likes and 50,000 comments, many expressing disbelief that someone who projected such strength could have been suffering so deeply. Hashtags like RIP Raven and check on your strong friends trended for days as followers processed their shock. "I watched her Mental Health Monday just last week," wrote one follower. "She literally saved me from my own dark thoughts, and now she's gone. How is this possible?" This sentiment echoed throughout comments sections. The painful irony that someone who helped others navigate mental health challenges couldn't escape her own. Media coverage focused heavily on the apparent contradiction between Raven's public persona and private struggles. Several major outlets ran features examining the pressure faced by influencers to maintain perfect images despite personal difficulties. Her death became a flashpoint in broader conversations about authenticity and mental health in digital spaces. 600 Breezy's behavior in the aftermath generated significant controversy. After his initial emotional posts about her death, including the disputed bridge claim, his public grieving process took unexpected turns. 10 days after her passing, he released a new music video that had been filmed weeks earlier, promoting it across his platforms without mentioning Raven. When criticized for this quick return to self-promotion, he responded defensively, "Y'all don't know what I'm going through. I'm handling my pain my way." This response only intensified scrutiny, particularly when photos emerged of him partying at a Miami nightclub just 3 weeks after her death. By October, he had largely stopped referencing Raven publicly, except for a brief Instagram story on what would have been her 25th birthday, "Miss you, baby. Keep watching over me." The brevity and timing of this message, posted between promotions for an upcoming concert, struck many as callous. Perhaps most revealing was the response from Raven's family. Her parents, who had been largely absent from her life for years, made no public statements about her death. They declined interview requests and did not organize any memorial services. A small gathering of friends held an unofficial remembrance event at Jacksonville State University, but no family members attended. This absence confirmed what close friends had long known. Raven's support system had significant gaps. Despite her thousands of followers and apparent social connections, she had few people who knew her authentic self. The woman who helped so many had few places to turn for help herself. "She created this beautiful community for everyone else," said her former roommate, "but never really felt she belonged in it." The real Raven was much more isolated than anyone realized. As months passed, questions about what truly happened that night remained unanswered. What explained the bruising on her arms? If she had been contemplating taking her own, why schedule new projects and partnerships for the coming months? The police investigation officially closed, ruling that she ended her own life, but many followers remain unconvinced. Online forums dedicated to discussing her case continue to analyze every detail, from the positioning of the gun to the timing of her final messages. Perhaps the most haunting question is also the simplest. Could Raven have been saved? Were there intervention points that friends, followers, or platform moderators missed? Her death revealed the limitations of digital connection. How someone can appear completely fine online while suffering intensely in private. For the mental health community she championed, Raven's story became both a cautionary tale and a call to action. A reminder that behind every perfect social media presence is a real person facing real struggles, often invisible to even their most dedicated followers. Raven Jackson's story reveals a troubling truth about our digital age. The lives we consume online are often carefully constructed illusions. The gap between her polished content and private reality wasn't just a personal tragedy. It reflects a broader cultural phenomenon affecting millions. When we scroll through social media, we're not seeing reality but highlights. The best moments, the perfect angles, the carefully worded captions. This curated content creates an impossible standard that even its creators can't live up to. Raven herself became trapped in the persona she created, unable to show vulnerability without risking her brand and livelihood. This comparison trap affects both content consumers and creators. Followers measure their ordinary lives against extraordinary presentations, while influencers face mounting pressure to maintain increasingly unrealistic standards. This cycle damages mental health on both sides of the screen. Genuine support systems, not digital connections, make the critical difference in mental health outcomes. Raven had thousands of followers, but few people who knew her authentic self. Her case demonstrates that follower counts and comment sections cannot replace meaningful human connection. The most important relationships are those where we can show our unfiltered selves without fear of judgment. Recognizing when someone is struggling behind a perfect facade requires attention to subtle shifts. In Raven's final weeks, there were warning signs, changes in posting patterns, recycled content instead of new material, withdrawal from commitments, and brief moments of unusual vulnerability quickly covered by returns to positivity. These patterns often indicate someone is struggling to maintain their public image while privately falling apart. Social media platforms bear responsibility too. Algorithms that reward perfection and penalize authenticity create environments where being honest about struggles can cost creators their livelihoods. When platforms prioritize engagement over well-being, they create conditions where people like Raven feel trapped in personas that become increasingly difficult to maintain. Raven's death forces us to confront uncomfortable questions about how we consume and create content. Are we contributing to a culture that values appearance over authenticity? Are we measuring our lives against impossible standards? Most importantly, are we building genuine connections that sustain us beyond the digital realm? The most meaningful tribute to Raven's legacy might be a shift toward greater authenticity online. Creating spaces where people can share both triumphs and struggles without fear of rejection or brand damage. Perhaps then, the next person standing where Raven stood might find a path forward rather than a dead end. Raven Jackson's story ended tragically, but her impact continues through the conversations her death has sparked about mental health, authenticity, and the hidden costs of digital fame. Though the official investigation concluded that she ended her life, the contradictions surrounding her final days ensure her case remains a subject of ongoing discussion and reflection. What makes her story particularly powerful is the central irony. A mental health advocate who couldn't access the support she needed, a woman who helped others find their voice while silencing her own truth. This contradiction speaks to larger issues about how we present ourselves online versus how we experience life privately. Her legacy exists in two distinct forms. There's the official legacy, her content, which continues to inspire followers who discover her work. Then, there's the unintended legacy, the way her death has highlighted the dangerous gap between digital personas and human reality. For the mental health community she championed, Raven's story serves as both warning and motivation, a reminder that behind every perfect image is a real person with real struggles. Her case has prompted important discussions about creator well-being and the responsibility of platforms to protect the people who generate their content. Perhaps the most fitting memorial to Raven isn't found in tribute posts or hashtags, but in the growing movement toward authenticity in digital spaces. Creators who are increasingly willing to show their unfiltered lives, inspired partly by understanding the cost of maintaining perfect facades. If this story impacted you, please hit the like button and subscribe to Crazy Dark Files for more stories that go beyond the headlines. What other cases would you like me to cover next? Your engagement helps this channel continue exploring the complex human stories behind tragic headlines.